The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Bob's. Bob's is a Columbia-based retailer of over 100 Black-owned products from 20 Black-owned businesses. Bob's offers a wide range of items from household cleaning, cosmetics, and everything in between. With every visit to Bob's, you support Black-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to grow and establish connections with our community. Bob's is located inside the Noma warehouse at 2222 Sumter Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Visit their website, weshopbobs.com for in-store pickup or to find out more. Bob's can also be found via social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at weshopbobs. When you stop by, tell them the Hilltop Glove sent you. Bob's brings quality Black brands to the Columbia community. The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Red Rooster Sports Bar and Grill. Red Rooster is your neighborhood bar and grill serving the best wings, burgers, and baskets in the Met.
Like the amazing food, the bar is always on tap, and there's plenty of screens to watch the big game. Red Rooster is the Midland's premier meetup spot for local car and bike clubs, fraternities, and sororities.
Staff is dedicated to accommodating all kinds of parties and events. If you're looking to catch a game, have a bite, and a drink, look no further than the Red Rooster.
Red Rooster is located at 7500 Wilson Boulevard, Columbia, South Carolina. For more information, visit redroostersportsbar.com or visit them on Facebook, Instagram at Red Rooster Sports Bar. Go where the winners go.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Hilltop Glove Season 2. Of course, I'm one of your co-hosts, Skip. Today, I'm accompanied by, of course, Mike, DJ and What, and we're going to be talking today to Sean Wilson, attorney. So we'll go ahead. So some information about Sean. Sean is Charleston, South Carolina-based attorney and operator of the law offices of Sean Wilson. Sean is a Columbia, South Carolina native. He's a graduate of CFC, and he also went to the Charleston School of Law. Sean specializes in civil and construction litigation, wrongful deaths, accidents, personal injuries, and work-related injuries. In addition, Sean is very involved in his community, serving as a board member with COBRA, which stands for the Committee on Better Racial Assurance, or COBRA Human Services. They focus on sickle cell anemia. Sean is also a former chair of the Dorchester Democratic Party. He's an adjunct professor at Charleston School of Law, where he teaches a class called The Elements of Pretrial Litigation. How are you doing this morning, Sean?
Man, good morning. Doing well this morning. How are y'all doing?
Man, good, man. Good, man.
Excellent. Doing well. Awesome. Well, I appreciate y'all having me on the show, and I'm proud of you guys and all that you do.
Oh yeah, likewise, man. Like I said, we've all because we've known each other for quite a while now. I think, as a matter of fact, I think we've known you now since, gosh, at least since 2004. So I'm going on over 15,
Yup.
16 years.
Yeah.
2004 was the year, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I remember when you and Matt used to come in the gym and bust our asses a ball, man. That's one of the first memories I have of y'all.
I knew that was too long ago, man. I miss because I don't even pick up a ball no more, and I really miss those days.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like, it goes way back, man. Way back. But one of the reasons why we wanted to get you on today was with our season. One of the reasons we started out the podcast was we wanted to talk to different people, especially like in our age range, like millennial age range, that we know that are, movers and shakers in our community, that are, doing big things, but at the same time, they're very grounded in their day to day. And just talking to them, just talking about just the obstacles they face and doing what they need to do. But then at the same time, maybe some tips, advice that you can give to other people that are in a similar situation that are trying to do a little bit more, who kind of want to be motivated. And we thought that you would be an excellent person to talk to because, like I'll say, continue to say this through our conversation. Since day one, I've known you. You've always been a person who's been very serious, and meaning that you were always very purpose driven. You always very focused. It is awesome to see just from back then, from when like I knew you from school, just to see your growth and to see how that's transitioned to like into adult life and your professional life. And it's dope seeing that growth, especially from somebody that you've seen, known for many years.
Man, I appreciate that. And likewise, same I say for you. And I've been definitely following you guys and all that you do.
Definitely appreciate it. We'll go ahead and get started. So, of course, we know that you have your own law practice. One of the beauty of launching your own law practice is, like, unlike many businesses, you don't need much to get started. Of course, the education and the training, of course, all of that's done. But as far as things like the actual brick and mortar, you need, of course, you need technology. You got to take care of overhead costs, maintaining a website, naming your practice, malpractice insurance, all great things to get started. Some benefits to starting your own practice are, of course, you have the ability to do more law, you have control over your client selection, and you have a chance to develop a business model that works for you. So the question is, at what age did you make the decision to practice law? And what were some of the obstacles or pivotal moments you faced on your journey to starting your own practice?
Man, I think early on, I knew since elementary school, it's probably been a goal of mine to go to law school. I know we laughed earlier about us playing basketball, but I knew it, my parents was pretty, they were adamant that I wasn't going to the NBA, so they weren't going to.
I like how you try to soften that up.
No, they were realists, and and so they didn't try to give me any false fairy tale advantages or stuff like that. So
exactly,
they realized that education was big for us. And me and all my brothers, reading and going to the library and really educating ourselves at an early age was something that I wanted to do. So I knew early on, probably like elementary school, because a lot of the books that I would read would be biographies. And, and I would always talk to my family and my parents about like history. And one of the things like Brown versus Board of Education. And, we would go through Clarendon County on the way to Georgetown sometimes, and I would see the signs and I would ask my mom about it, or I asked my mom about how I was busing and my dad about busing and growing up. And I still ask these questions today. And initially I was like, man, I wanted to be like a civil rights lawyer and do stuff like that. And what I've seen other people doing in the civil rights movement and what I read about, and it just kept going and going and going. And here we are today. Thank God.
Wow. Sometimes when you talk to people that want to be doctors or lawyers or whatever, it's purely a financial or a class kind of thing that they're just trying to get paid. It sounds like you were really trying to make a difference.
Absolutely. It was never about the money, and when talking to my family and friends, and we never wanted to do anything just for money. And if you're doing something just for money,
right,
you won't have the passion. You know, I love practicing law. I love doing what I do. It's a very demanding schedule, a demanding job, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I couldn't see myself doing anything else but what I'm doing today. And so to be able to live out a lifelong dream that you work hard to kind of build and continue to build, it's a blessing.
Most definitely.
As far as when you were in school and you were kind of making that, like, I guess, because once you got to college, I guess, you know, you wanted to be a lawyer, of course, growing up. But when you got to college, what were some of the adjustments you think you had to make, or ways that you focus, that you, or things you had to put into motion to kind of make sure to ensure that you were on that path to making sure you transition from undergrad to law school to where you started, so you had a practice?
A lot, man. I'll even go back as far as high school to just college. And that transition was hard because, yeah, you was, you know, smart and you made decent grades and you were able to translate into college. However, the learning path was different. You know, I remember going to like professors like Dr. Word. I think he's like an English teacher of mine freshman year. And, you know, I thought I was a pretty good writer, but just seeing them blue marks on your paper.
Yeah.
You know,
Tear the papers up.
Yeah.
And realizing that it took so much work to be better. And I like to always get better and make sure that I was getting better. And so I knew that I had to kind of work. It was tough, just the transition of just learning and changing the way I thought, changing the way I write, changing the way that I communicated, it was completely different. And so, you know, I was one of those students that just really had to work pretty hard. You know, it never really came super easy to me for every class. Some did more than others, but not all of them. And one of the things that I did as far as preparing is I knew early on what I wanted my major to be. So I declared freshman year like political science pre-law. And I went in early on trying to get to that path. And as to what I wanted to do in that aspect. So I declared pretty early and started trying to see what I needed to do early. And then I realized that if I wanted to do this, then I needed to possibly take it seriously and really start working for attorneys and understanding the intricacies of a law firm and what it did and how did it help people. Because, yeah, I read books about it but I didn't know any attorneys. You know, nobody in my family was a lawyer. And, you know, only attorneys I saw was on television. You know, I didn't know who I could call. I didn't have any, you know, friends that were attorneys. You know, my folks were just hardworking, common blue collar people, which are all good people. And so I didn't know how it was going to happen. And so one day I was, you know, talking to student resources about maybe trying to find a job. And actually I applied for different jobs. One was at Edward Jones, and then one was at the law office of Gedney Howe, who's a good mentor of mine today, and really kind of helped kind of change the trajectory of my life. And so what I did was I applied to both of them. And I got the job at Edward Jones. And I was like, wow, you know, I can go to the financial world and hear all these great things. And then I ended up, it was funny because it was raining. And, you know, when you go to school at the College of Charleston, it's sunny. It's outside. And it was, I'll never forget, I had the interview. So I was like, man, I'm going to go ahead and put my clothes on so I don't have to rush after class to get to the interview. Man, I came out. It didn't have an umbrella or nothing. The sun drenched rain. Only had one suit at all. And I was like, man. So I ended up getting soaked. I mean, it was like a blood rain. So that was my only suit. And I'm like, man, I got to change real quick. So I had a pair of khakis and a button-up shirt. I was like, okay, let me change into this. And then I went into the interview. It was Willie West was the office manager at the time. God rest his soul, a good friend of mine that passed away that worked for Gedney's office. And he interviewed me. But first, when I went in, I was just like, man, I apologize. You know, my suit got rained on and I only had one suit and, you know, but I went ahead and started and we talked and, you know, he called me back probably about 30 minutes after I had left and said, hey, can you start Monday? And I was like, yes. And it worked out and changed my life. I went to like S&K that weekend and I was like, man, I got to get me some more clothes.
Yeah. Yo, explain to people what S&K is, because you just went back on us a little bit right there. They don't know what that is.
They don't even know what S&K is. S&K don't even exist no more. But S&K was like Joseph A. Banks before Joseph A. Banks. It was like Men's Warehouse before Men's Warehouse. It had like really good clothing. Funny story is I went in there the same day. They asked me for a job too. And so I was like, man,
you were on fire, man. He was on fire
that day. Job down, but I said, you know, Matt might be interested, and he worked. Matt,
good man.
And he worked there for a little while and realized the commission was hard, so he didn't do it too long. But I bought some clothes, went in Monday morning, just focused and ready to go, and just really kind of learned. And from there on, that job kind of changed my life, changed the way I thought, changed the way that I saw the world. And I didn't realize how broad the spectrum was. It opened up my horizons. It expanded me to think differently. And I was always ambitious, but I think having that job made me realize, like, man, you know, my ambition can be even broader. It can, you know, it's more to life than what I really could do.
Exactly. Cool. Well, I know one of the things
internships are so valuable.
I always try to push that to my students when I was at the college working as a counselor, is just getting into an internship as soon as you could. And that was a good point you made, Sean, about choosing your path as soon as you had the opportunity, so you can start seeing what some of the hardships would be, the pitfalls, what you needed to have as a foundation, the different paths you needed to get to where you could be, quote unquote, successful or get your foot in the door. Because a lot of folk don't understand that those things take time.
Yeah.
It's not going to, And if you waste your time, it's going to take you, I always tell it's like you got to do 2-3 times the amount of work to make up that missed time so you can actually catch yourself up. But I like how you put that. I do have one question for you though, Sean. When you started off going into your college education, and this is just based on what you were saying earlier, it seems as if you were pretty interested in history.
I was.
See, because that's how I started off.
I think you gotta have to for law.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking
history
about that.
That's it.
Those two things are very intertwined. I just thought that was interesting that you brought that point up about being interested in your history. How does that affect your ability to do what you do now? You're just having a understanding of history.
I mean, I think history just makes the world go round. I think that we need to know what yesterday was just to get to what today is. And I think, you know, today's society don't really pay attention to what the history is. I mean, you got people in industries that don't even know who came before them and set the groundwork and set the pathways. So me wanting to really know the lay of the land and kind of know, okay, who are these people? Who are the people that I need to know? Who are the people that I need to shake their hand? Just from a legal history standpoint was so important, but just from a broader scope of just knowing who I was and who I came from and where I came from, and where my family came from, that was big. So wanting to know that aspect of history. So a lot of the stuff that I would read would be history books or biographies or documentaries about just where it is. And that still kind of translate to some of my interests today. I mean, I'm still a history buff, and some people that know me call me an old soul because it's like, man, you lived here before, and
that's true.
It's not that. It's just, you know, I just think that we have to appreciate where we came from and where we're to understand where we are actually going.
Knowledge. Yep, that's wisdom right there. Yes,
so
sir.
So true. Yep.
Exactly. So this is what I was about to ask you too. Another question. I didn't know you were from Georgetown. You know, Onward now, we have relatives in the Georgetown area.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where it's from.
No, I was born in Columbia, but in Richland Memorial Hospital. But my parents are actually from Georgetown. My mom's deceased now; she passed away in 2015. And my father, they both went to what they call Rosemary High School, and then they were actually, as they were finishing up, bused. And they kind of went through the integration process of desegregation, and Rosemary turned into Andrews High School. And so, just talking to my parents about some of those things, and it was like, man, you see that on TV, but man, your parents actually went through the transition of doing busing and desegregation and all of that stuff. And so I don't really know if they really understood the magnitude of the history that they were going through at that particular time. Now they talk to them about it, but just, picking their brain or at growing up about that was really something that was interesting to me.
Dang, that is a very unique perspective to be able to have that from your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And this has somewhat to do with a question more along the lines of like hip hop. Hip hop community, and more like a cultural, like the way we look at the legal world. And I thought this would be a great question to ask is, of course, when it comes to the hip hop community and just larger Black community, when we think about the legal world, we usually tend to think about it in the scope of the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we're inundated with posts on social media about, such and such got arrested, such and such is on trial, things like that. And that's how we think about. That's pretty much the extent of how people think about law and, law and just legal, world in general.
You versus the man.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And so, so while our history of dealing with the criminal justice system is important, of course, it's just with our history in this country as a whole, there are other aspects of the legal system that we must be aware about, and such as like wills, workers' comp, contracts, just things of that nature. Yeah. So most recently, there was a story covering, of course, everybody knows DMX recently passed.
Yeah.
And there was a story in the aftermath covering the legal ramifications of it, where his longtime girlfriend was unable to claim ownership of his estate due to his lack of will and them not being married, despite their long-term relationship. Because, there are a lot of people, in our community, they like, man, marriage is just on paper. It don't mean anything, blah, blah, blah. And as a result of that, and I don't know what their situation was, but because they weren't married, she wasn't entitled to any of the estate or the fortune because of the situation they had, and just maybe just the lack of understanding the legal issues. So in your opinion, what are some ways we can promote better understanding of legal resources and information within our community?
Stay off of Google. I love Google. I really do, and it's very helpful. But I think we have so many Google lawyers today, and really and truly, is more research that we can do to better understand ourselves. And even as lawyers, it's so much things that we can do to make it transparent to the world and the clients. Because even before I even practiced law, I didn't realize how broad the spectrum was for law, and it really didn't really think about it that much. Yeah, I saw criminal, and growing up, I was like, yeah, criminal lawyer. It never dawned on me about personal injury or workers' compensation or lawyers. I did hear about the civil rights stuff, and like I said earlier, I read about it and was pretty fascinated by it, but I didn't really understand how all of that really worked. And so it's a lot, and understanding the ins and outs of it is something that's going to take a lot of time. So one, to answer your question, we have to do careful and calculated research, but then we have to really leave it in the hands of the experts. I think there's a big distrust with the general population and public with lawyers, because so many bad lawyer jokes out there, so many people that don't trust lawyers. And that has made it really hard for people to even want to even communicate with attorneys or even trust attorneys. Mm-hmm. And so, one, they don't even really want to hear what we got to say. because, they've been wronged in so many ways by some lawyers, and it kind of, one bad apple kind of ruins the whole bunch, and I think the distrust is something that has caused the problem. And so you're like, man, I'm not paying them that. I'm not doing that. I can, go on Google and kind of do this, or this is right. So it's a lot of miseducation going on, and legal Zoom, and, a lot of things out there that.
Yeah. How do you feel about those, like LegalZoom, and even the monthly subscriptions to lawyers,
legal and all that stuff.
How do those things, how do you think those affect the industry?
I mean, it serves a purpose for what it does, but I mean, I think you get what you pay for, and I even got to tell myself that all the time when I'm buying stuff. Well, let me pay a little higher premium to get a better quality of service of what I need. And then 2, you got to make sure that you get a good fit, because every case isn't for every lawyer. Every client isn't for every lawyer. Every situation isn't for every lawyer. So understanding that, hey, there's a lawyer that does probate and wills and estate planning. There's a lawyer that does criminal law. There's a lawyer that does family and law and domestic relations. There's a lawyer that, does personal injury, and kind of staying in that area, and going back to even the history. I think at one time, you had more general practices where people kind of focused on all of those things. But now,
that's what people are used to seeing, quote unquote.
But now it's just kind of narrowed down. It's a lot, and it's a lot to kind of stay abreast on the law. So I kind of just focus on navigating the areas of law that I work in, because it's a lot just doing what I do. So I couldn't imagine just trying to do estate planning and criminal law and all of that stuff. But going back towards it, in the DMX situation, RP DMX, he was, one of my favorite rappers growing up, and that situation was heavily in the news. But knowing that, hey, the standard of marriage and the importance of marriage, and what are your legal rights when you are married, that's so important. And that legal documentation means so much more to have it than to not have it. And so it's not that the system is trying to pick on you for not being married, but, having a certified marriage means certain rights that are entitled to you. So, that's something that you have to really listen to and get counsel with and really kind of understand. So, pay the consultation to talk to different people in their areas and practice and kind of understand those things. And for DMX to say, I don't know his situation or anything like that, but just for people that I know, we don't want to talk about the inevitable, like death.
Yeah.
Death is something that's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us. So getting an estate put together is so important. Having a will and a healthcare power of attorney or a trust and all of those things, and going to the right people that handle those type of things, and makes it so much more valuable. And having businesses and assets and what happens to these things when I pass away is so influential to know. So doing careful research, but trusting into the experts to talk to them about it, and really digging in a little bit deeper than what we have been doing is so important and so valuable to understanding what our rights are and what type of laws are out there.
Man, I think elaborate on this point for me, because I know people, they need to hear this. I like what the point you made about you need to research who you're going to for your consultation to get consulted from. You actually have to know what their specialty is, how long they've been practicing, where they learned their law, and what's going on. Because I like that you made that point, because that almost gives you agency and some kind of power in your decision making. It makes you feel less vulnerable. And I think that's a big issue with a lot of folk, millennials, especially from how we perceive lawyers, is that we feel vulnerable. When we go into them, we know they're going to hit us over the head for all the money. And then, and then that's how we're thinking, like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then if it doesn't go right, i.e. if I pay money and I don't receive the receive the quote unquote outcome that I want, then I'm going to be angry about it as well. And I think that keeps a lot of us from taking advantage of specific things, especially in the legal world and dealing with professionals in the legal world, that could actually be an asset for us. We just don't trust it.
Well, we as lawyers, we hear those things. We hear those things all the time. And it's so important to listen out to what the community is saying and what people are actually going through. So one of my biggest goals for all of my clients is that they feel comfortable with me and that there's a trust factor in the relationship that my client and I have built together, and that, my firm is putting forth an effort to try to help them achieve a goal or receive a solution or fix a problem, and letting them know that we serve them. It's not the opposite way around, because we're nothing without the client, and their needs come first. And so having that understanding, and then kind of being able to scope the scene and say, hey, okay, I don't know this, when you're looking at somebody, hey, like, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, so let me repeat that, or let me break it down a little bit more to where they can kind of understand it, because people do get taken advantage of, and then sometimes it's just a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. But we want to have that open line of communication with our clients so that we can really, hey, this is what it is. This is what the breakdown is. This is what the fee structure is. I don't want them to have any questions at all or any lack of trust, because I know what people are actually saying, and I know that people really don't trust attorneys. And so we're trying to end that stigma and build a bond and a connection, because in our office, they're not clients, they become family.
That's a good point. That makes that totally different, because, like I said, it is a caricature idea, but that's how people, they see, attorneys as slick talking, fast moving, you know what I'm saying? They will take your money.
Yeah. And part of it is that there's actually a language barrier, because of the nature of law. Attorneys have to speak very concisely, and the rest of us come off the street. We're speaking for the transmission of an idea from one consciousness to another, and that's not necessarily the proper way to speak. That's not necessarily using the proper terms, and so trying to meld those two ways of communicating is a big barrier for people.
Yep. And I know for a lot of Black people, this is a real thing, because I work in a doctor's office, and I communicate with patients all the time about proper medical jargon, how to communicate with their actual physician, proper ramification, like how you're supposed to do things in a correct way so that everything runs smoothly. And I know a lot of the issue of making people happy, making them feel like they're getting what they wanted from the exchange, is like Sean was saying, communicating upfront, clear at the point of attack, so that there is no way to have anything misconstrued. And that makes them feel so much better. Even if they don't get exactly what they want perfectly, they can understand it. And that's what makes it okay for them. And then, hey, I'll come back, I'll see him again.
In life in general, communication is the key to, or lack thereof, is the reason why so many problems exist.
Money. Money. Yep. Exactly. And this one is, I guess, for good or bad, hip hop culture is a culture of persistence and patience. We've heard countless stories of innovators and their paths to success. Along that path, they face adversity with the intent of achieving a desired outcome. Since meeting you in college, we've always recognized your persistence and your patience with your studies, your seriousness, and how you approach life and interact with others. You've always seemed focused on your bigger goal or purpose, while many of us are looking forward to the party tomorrow night. And we used to throw parties. This is for real. So I like how Kev put that. That's for real. That's real dope. Because that's how we always do it. Sean, he's about his business, blah, blah, blah. But we got to go do this party tonight. But with that said, how has persistence and patience driven you to fulfilling your purpose and achieving success?
Man, it's funny we talk about purpose, because I'm reading right now A Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren.
Hey.
And with my staff, we actually have just in our meetings, we talk about what our purpose is and knowing what our purpose is and what we're doing. That's kind of what we've been studying on for August. And then, September, we're studying something different just to make us better. And I think knowing at that time when you would see me, we were young, trying to figure out what that purpose was, trying to figure out what we had to navigate through. I knew at that time on CFC's campus and going home to Columbia and stuff on the weekends in the summertime, I wanted something bigger. I wanted to achieve more. I knew where I came from, and I knew that I wanted so much more for myself and for my family and just to do better. So I knew that you had to sacrifice now for the better good of later to achieve it, getting what you wanted. And so, we had a lot of fun. At college, that's what kids do. You have a lot of fun. But then, you do have to really sit down and kind of think about those things. And like I said, that internship changed my life, kind of seeing, okay, wow, this is how they live. This is how he's doing this. This is how he's doing that. I got to get serious. Exactly. It made me like, man, I'm not living the way that I need to be living. And I need to really take this approach a little bit differently. And so I had to really grow up a little bit faster if I knew I was going to try to get to where I wanted to. And so, you go fast and like, man, I wanted this now. But then you realize, hey, man, life is important. Enjoy the moment. And everything's going to happen the way everything needs to in the right time. And I'm a spiritual guy. So, I always think about those things. But the purpose then and the purpose now was just never about me. It was always about what I can do to impact somebody else's lives, to make their lives better. And I think that's the purpose of what we do in serving. How can we make our clients' lives better? How can I help somebody else? We don't want to be glorified for telling somebody what we've done for somebody or trying to help somebody like that. But we want them to feel confident that, hey, when we really help you, we're really trying to help you. We don't want nothing in return, but to really, that we're not entitled to, but we really just want to really help. And so that purpose, I think in some form or of another, was that same purpose back then.
Mm-hmm. That's understood. And then just building on that question, there's always been an idea of what do you consider success? Is it money? Is it property? Is it having healthy family? Like, what do you consider success? Because I know a lot of folks have that question. And when you're at our age and you're a millennial, you want to make sure by the age of 40, you can get quote unquote success.
Yeah. So we're putting these time frames on our lives and we're putting these time frames on ourselves. And really and truly what it's causing is a lot of stress. Because we're saying, hey, I got to have this by the time I'm 30. I got to have this by the time I'm 25. I got to have that by the time I'm 40. And I was guilty of that at one particular point, but it didn't happen. The 25 came and I didn't have what those goals were. 30 came and I wasn't where I wanted to actually be. And I said, so life will humble you to the point to where you say, hey, look, it's not me. I just need to live life and enjoy life and really do the day-to-day things that I can do to make my life better, and that everything will fall into place if I trust the process and if I trust my ability and if, I trust in my higher power, whatever you believe in, to really get you there to that particular point.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, I can understand that. I know
what you talking about? We got to have our lives straight by 40, man.
Hey, man.
You the youngest one on the call. That's why.
Reading.
Look, 40 right around the corner for me, man.
and sometimes your life and the definition of success is different to everybody. We even
right.
What's success? For me, success is the general. Yeah, I would be foolish to sit up here and say, hey, we don't want to live a life that's fruitful and multiply. Yeah, exactly. You want to, that realistically, yes, you want to have things, but you don't want to worship those things or really, you want to remain humble at the same time. And, you want to be able to help and give back. What's the goal of having $1 billion by 40 if you don't have anybody to share it with?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Or traveling with, or just, you're doing it by yourself. So that's why the people that I bring along, and it takes me a long time, but, they become family. And so if I can share those experiences with people and help people change their lives, that is what success is for me, because to whom much is given, much is required. And we got to remember that. We have to. We have to give back at all points. And so, social media has changed society. We look at, oh man, so-and-so has this, so-and-so has that. And we get to doing what we can by comparing each other's lives a little bit more. But if you stay in your own lane, you don't really have anything to worry about, and you trust the process and you're doing everything that you're doing, you don't have much to worry about.
Exactly.
Right.
Our generation, we're like the test cows or guinea pigs for this whole treatment of, we have something that we've been able to watch each other from since we've been young. As we've been growing up with this social media, you can watch everybody evolving. And we've never been able to do that before. So like thinking about success, how well off you're doing, et cetera, especially as a professional, as a millennial, it's kind of insane. Like most time I don't even pay no attention to it. But, every once in a while, just like anybody else, you'll get sucked into it and fall down that little rabbit hole. So I just want to know your perception on that, because in my opinion, I think that you're successful.
Thank you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just want to know from your mind how you saw that. And so I like how humbled you are about where you're at and what's going on with your career. So that's a good thing, man. Stay like that.
You never want to view a monetary value as what a success is, because I know a lot of people that's rich but not necessarily happy, or a lot of people that has a lot of monetary value that definitely don't treat their neighbors nice or treat people nicely and are mean people. And so, you think about those types of things when you talk about success, but we can, that's a conversation we can have for a long time.
All right,
speaking about success and a certain level of giving back to the community, one of the that's one of the important things about being successful, is that it enables us to give back and to do more things. And so doing research, looking at you, we understand that you're involved with the Cobra and do some work in the sickle cell community. Can you tell us a little bit about that organization and what got you involved with that?
Sure. And, involved in Cobra probably going on almost 2 years now. And a good friend of mine, former Representative David Mack, told me about the organization, introduced me to a lot of the people there. And, I realized that sickle cell was a disease that affected African Americans in so many ways. And I just loved how the organization evolved over the years, and kind of learning the history going back to that and what they were doing today. And so even throughout the COVID pandemic, they were still working very hard to make sure that they were helping. And so, that was important. And one of the boards that I sit on, I also sit on the board for my sister's house, which helps women with domestic violence issues, or men with domestic violence issues and their spouses, and protects them and makes that awareness out there to the public. And so that's so important and critical as to what people need and what type of help they need. And I actually learned about that organization when I was at CFC, and I really, really was honored to be asked to be on the board of that organization, sit on the board of the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And, that was, I think we go through our day-to-day lives and we don't really take our time to really think about, how blessed we are. Being able to walk is a blessing. Being able to talk is a blessing, but being able to see and hear is such a blessing. And being able to be a part of and see how people are helped when they are visually impaired, that's so important. And then I sit on the Palmetto Project. I sit on that board as well in helping those underserved receive better healthcare benefits. And so I say it all the time. I said it here: to whom much is given, much is required. And so serving on all those boards and organizations and not just that, but giving back in so many other ways, trying to mentor and trying to really save lives. It's so important. I mean, it goes back to the success. It goes back to all of that. We have a duty. We're obligated to give back, because somebody helped me.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
All of us. None of us are islands. We all had other people getting us here, even if we weren't paying attention to it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things is because we are in this culture that is very focused on production and capitalism, I would call it an imperialist culture. A lot of us, we kind of get trained to only view our worth in what we can earn and what we can produce.
Yes.
And I think part of the woke mindset now is trying to relearn that, trying to reteach that your value is based on more than that. But at the same time, we also have to, produce enough to free ourselves so that we can take on other projects and things.
Yep.
And I know, anytime, obviously you're doing a lot. I know every board wants to have a lawyer on it. So you're spread around all over the place with that. But, when you first start out, it doesn't matter what your billable hours are or how marketable you are. There's always a struggle to get going at the beginning, to find your client base and get everything. And so, for everybody that starts a small business or is self-employed, running their own practice or whatnot, there's a period in which you're in tight times, and then eventually, hopefully, you get to a spot where you're getting by, and then eventually you're getting ahead. And I think it's very hard, especially if you're an ambitious person and you're motivated and a self-starter. It's very hard to make that for me anyway, to make that determination of when am I good enough, and I can start cutting back some of this and choosing my projects and not making all of my choices just off of making sure that I've got enough cushion to keep going if there was another slump. So how do you determine when you're at a place when you can throttle back a little and pick the kinds of work that you want to do and turn down jobs that you don't? When do you know that you've made it enough that you can start really giving back to the community?
I don't think that you ever can sit back and just kind of say you made it. You
always got that drive.
You always got to have that drive, because there's always somebody in business that's going to want to take what you got, or in just life, and just kind of, so you can't just sit down and be passive, but you can't wait to say, hey, I'm going to get to this point. I'm going to save this amount of money and then I can help somebody. No, if you can help somebody and you're in a position to help them right now, and you got the time or the resources to be able to do so, and even if you don't feel that you're where you really need to be, you still need to help that person. Help when you can, because it's not about you. So help when you're going through the struggle, but also putting yourself first in that aspect too, and not overextending yourself. But I don't think you ever. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'm like, hey man, let me sit back and kind of just, the more that you coach,
right.
I'm just not a coaster. I don't know how to coach. I can't sit here. I woke up this morning thinking about stuff that I got to do and kind of working. So it's never a day that I feel like, man, you know what? I'm just going to coast today. I'm not going to, man, even on vacation, I'm thinking about sharpening the tools and getting better and what I need to do to get better and how I should approach this situation differently and preparation and all of those things. I use the sports analogies like to Michael Jordan, and I was listening to the Chris Paul and Gilbert Arenas podcast when they were talking, and just that preparation and just love of doing what you do.
That's your love.
You might narrow down the approach. You might learn how to work more efficiently, You know, you might be able to have more resources to be able to work better and improve and do all of those things. But coasting, I don't think that I ever will.
I believe that too. I know he's not telling a lie. It's the truth. It's the truth.
He's not lying.
But I guess that difference is like when you are passionate about your career, when you are enjoying the work, right? So then it just becomes more of like choosing the jobs you want to take, kind of thing.
But that, in the sense of whatever the case is doing, you know, you need to do a good job on it, paying attention to detail, paying attention to everything that you do, doing what you need to do is so important. So even if I was whatever the case may be, if I was a chef or if I was, you know, another profession, I would still carry that same mentality.
Oh, work ethic.
That's something.
Right.
That's something that's hard to find nowadays.
Well,
man.
I think it really is because so many people feel trapped in what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and they don't have any passion for it. And so if you feel like you're enslaved to the system, then why are you going to have passion about it? You know, you really have to, like, at least even mentally, even if you're not financially self-liberated, you got to be mentally liberated to be able to do that.
Facts. But you gotta be able to push yourself to see the bigger picture.
That's a big one too.
Because it's somebody that's always watching. So when you coasting, it's somebody that's watching you coast.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Because you got to think, and it makes a lot of sense too, because even like you said, because even if you get to a certain point or what might be defined as success, right? And as soon as people see you kind of let your foot off the brakes or kind of enjoy it, there's always going to be somebody in the background somewhere like, well, I see an opportunity for me to make my move.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
you end up looking like Kanye West with Drake.
Yeah, man, exactly.
Man, that whole thing is a scam. Don't y'all even follow that.
I already know what I'm saying. Like, it's been like that for years with those two. Yeah. They're competing, and whenever he lifts that foot up, Drake come through.
Yeah, man, yeah. And I think, like you said, and that leads to the next question that we have is time management. So I know outside of your legal practice, of course, you're very involved in your community and your family as well. That's a lot of hats to wear, of course. So how do you find time to manage all your responsibilities?
Man, balance
all them boards.
Well, you know, balance is important, and you know, I'm one of those persons that I got to find time to really rest. And so I schedule rest in for me, because if I'm not taking care of myself, then I can't take on somebody else's problems. And so if I'm not able to be the best version of me that I can be, then I'm doing a disservice to a customer or a client and or any board or anybody that I'm helping. So taking the time to get the proper sleep, trying to eat decent, you know, some days are better than others, and, you know, getting some physical activity in a few days out of the week, and just resting and just time where you're idling, you know, taking the time to where I might just watch a movie or just rest or sleep or just sit in silence or, you know, get spiritually recharged, and all of those things is so important. So having that balance, you know, and downtime and is very important. Taking the time to travel when I can, or, you know, just experience life, because, you know, I don't want to just work all the time. You know, it's so much more to me than just practicing law. You know, it's a lot of different versions of who Sean Wilson is, and practicing law is on the top of the priority. But, you know,
only one facet.
Yeah, it's one dynamic, and it's so much more to who I am.
I like that idea of scheduling time, because that is very necessary.
Scheduling rest time.
And I'm right, and it's something that comes up with creatives all the time. And law is a lot more creative than people really think about it, because it's very logical, but it's also a lot of investigating and coming up with new ways to word things and structure things, and it's kind of a creative field on its own. And yeah, but scheduling time to rest, that's a good one. And
sometimes you gotta put that phone up.
Oh my Lord Jesus. Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
I mean, you check it, but sometimes just putting it on silent and just breathing. I think those are little things that we take for granted, but it's so important.
I know hearing that coming from you, Sean, I take that seriously. Because if you're saying that, I know, yes, sir, it's something that's necessary. I'm bad at that. I always get beat up by my fiance for that not resting properly. She's like, you gotta go to sleep, man. You gotta do this, that, because then you're no good to anybody if you aren't properly rested. So,
what happens is when the real situations come up and you haven't been resting, then when you are really needed and it's do or die, you're fighting that. You're mentally exhausted, you're physically exhausted, and sometimes, myself personally, I'm coming off of a burnout last week. Like I was done. And it was to the point where I realized that, I was problem solving and figuring out things every day. And then I would come home and I'd play video games where I would be problem solving and trying to figure out strategies. And then I would be watching TV shows where there was some complicated thing in the background you were trying to figure out. And it was like I was hitting that same part of my brain nonstop. Even when I was resting, I was doing the same things that I do at work. And eventually your brain just stops being able to do that kind of thought. And if that happens at a crucial moment when somebody needs you to do something, then I don't know what you do. So you got to rest ahead of time so that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Preparation.
Yep.
Yeah, man. And that's, like you said, that's a big thing. Because I know with me, my thing, like I said, the phone thing is a huge thing for me, especially. It's just being able to put that phone down. And sometimes the best days I have are the days when my phone is off or I lose my phone or I don't have it on me. Like those are probably some of the happiest days I've had in like the past. And that's crazy that you think that, but like over like the past like 10, 15 years of my life, I could easily be like the days when I don't have my phone are probably some of the most carefree days I have.
Enjoy them days. And I'll tell you, man. No, that's real talk. Yeah, not having that tether on you to catch your attention, so you can just focus on other things you need to do. Oh man, it's important. I'll take that every day. And I think I really enjoy this conversation because, especially with what we're talking about, especially for today, because we're going into the fourth quarter of the year. And this is that time of year where you need to get your stuff ready because once we finish this, we're going back into the new year. So this is the preparation time to get your ideas together, get your goals together, get your body recharged, get yourself in a position, in a headspace where we can go out there like Kobe and attack goals and get them knocked down, because a lot of people at this time of year, I'm relaxed, I'm gonna rest, it's going to the holiday season, etc. And then next year comes, it's gonna be that quick. It's gonna be like snap a finger, and you're already gonna have to jump on it and be at it. So this is a great interview and conversation to start off that season 2 as we go into the fall, because like I said, this is the fourth quarter and it's time to get to business. But yeah, man. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
Likewise, I really enjoyed the conversation with you guys. I know we can sit and do it all day. I really, really appreciate you guys, and I'm proud of the platform that you created, and I'm honored to be a guest on here. So if it's anything that I could ever do for you, don't hesitate to let me know, excuse me.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
Hopefully the next time this will be in person too. So
no.
Exactly.
We'll see you after COVID round 2.
Yep. Oh gosh, Mike.
Man, look. We gotta be real about it. Like, I'm looking at the numbers, and we are worse than we were in January after everybody came back from Christmas. We thought this was done with. It's not. It's about to get real bad.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing that people don't even realize. Is just because it's just the fact that, especially once the summertime hit, and then when all the vacations, and people started wanting to get outside, and then, like you said, because we still got this weekend. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, I did too. Like, look, I stuck a needle in my arm. I was like, cool, I'm good. No, that was kind of a lie.
Yeah, man. Now,
it's all good though.
One thing I will say though, now I've never taken off a mask when I go to the stores. I haven't taken off masks. Now that's one place.
I'll play that game with them.
Yeah. Now I haven't done that, so I've been keeping. So I'm kind of used to just wearing a mask now in the store for the foreseeable future. I've just kind of accepted that. But other than that, man, like I said, it's just, I know one of the things when we started too, especially Sean, was we wanted to, when we first started the podcast, of course, everything's going on COVID. So everything we've been doing has been remote. But we've been wanting to make that transition to where we can kind of sit down in person. And we thought we would have been able to do that going into this season. But of course, with the circumstances and everything, that's kind of pushed that back some. But we're still going to keep working. We're going to still keep doing our remote thing and whatnot. So, but aside from that, man, how can people look for you regarding your services?
Sure. Well, I appreciate it. Our main office is in downtown Charleston, right near the College of Charleston, and on 219 Calhoun Street. And we can be reached at area code 843-242-7622. That's 843-242-7622. I'm happy to help any way that we can. And if it's something that we don't do, we'll be happy to point them in the right direction. Our website is SeanWilsonLaw.com. That's www.SeanWilsonLaw.com. So www.SeanWilsonLaw.com. For any emails or questions, you can email me at Sean, SEAN, at SeanWilsonLaw.com. That's my email. We have, like the law office of Sean Wilson on Facebook. The Instagram is Sean M. Wilson, and the LinkedIn is Sean Wilson as well, Sean M. Wilson as well. So we're here to be a resource. We're here to be a tool for everybody and what their needs are, and just here to serve.
Awesome. Incredible. Like
really
I said,
appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely do, man. We definitely do.
And so we got a satellite office in Columbia, right in Irmo. So, we serve citizens of all 46 counties in the state of South Carolina as well. So, if we need to meet with us, we'll make it happen.
That's what I'm talking about.
Cool. Excellent. Well, like I said, I think that kind of wraps it up for this week's episode. Of course, you guys know where to find us. Of course, hilltopglove.com. And of course, the podcast is always streaming on all platforms. So until next time, peace.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.